Have you ever experienced a moment of uncanny coincidence that you just can't explain? Do you believe in synchronicity? Do you believe in serendipity? Do you lean into it? Do you think it's a load of nonsense? I am so interested in the different ways people perceive these things and how that affects and impacts our psychology. So today, I really want to get into it. I want to talk about it. Hey, beautiful people, I'm really happy to be talking to you about this today because this is something that I see happening all around me. And I have a very different attitude to some of my friends. Some people in my life feel the exact same way as I do. And I'm interested in just how different it is for different people and how your reaction to serendipity and synchronicity can have an impact on your psychology. Do you see synchronicity as a magical moment where the universe is whispering in your ear? Or do you see it as it's just a coincidence? If you do see it as just coincidence, are you willing to engage with the idea that there might be some wonder and some beauty in these things? Well, buckle up because today I'm going to take us on a journey to uncover the hidden gems of synchronicity that do sprinkle our lives with joy and purpose if you allow them to. Carl Jung is very well known for his psychology, less well known for the fact that he coined the term synchronicity. Carl Jung said, "Synchronicity is an ever present reality for those who have eyes to see." And that makes complete sense to me because I see in my life that some people see these things happening, they look for them even, and they have wonderful reactions to these synchronous events. And other people don't look for them at all. They don't look for these moments because they don't believe they're real or they don't believe they have meaning. They don't want to assign a meaning to something that in their mind is just a coincidence. And I want to challenge that because actually studies have shown that when you look for synchronous events in your life, you lead a happier life. Like literally, your day to day well being is higher than someone who just doesn't believe in synchronicity. Carl Jung also said it's the profound belief that meaningful coincidence are not merely random occurrences, but rather glimpses of a deeper interconnected truth. Isn't that fascinating? Like, imagine the universe, your life, conspiring in our favor, or imagine having some kind of a greater conversation outside of your own internal narrative that inspires you in your day to day events. Synchronicity is something that I definitely look for in my life. I look for it in little daily things, little nods where I will take that as, say, I have a big meeting happening. Maybe I'm just sat right here in my office and I'm about to meet with somebody about a potential new client or a big bulk of work. And it's been raining all day long. And then the sun comes out. And for me, I feel like that is a little sign, a little nod from the universe, from me, from my being externalized, letting me know that this is going to go well. Now, maybe there's an argument that that's nonsense and I'm simply assigning meaning to something that is unimportant. But here's the thing, in my assigning meaning to that, in my joy in that moment, I am elevating my energy. I am feeling happier and more confident. I then go into the meeting with more joy and more confidence, and I am far more likely to have a good outcome as a result. I had one incredible synchronous event in my life that I'm going to share with you because, frankly, it's magical. So, when I was 16 years old, I changed. My whole childhood dream was to be a vet. When I was 16, some things happened in my life and made me realize that I didn't want to just live to work all the time. That was not what I wanted for my life. And I realized that I wanted to follow my artistic, creative passion, that part of my soul that maybe I had been trying to kind of contain and normalize a little bit. And I decided that I wanted to become a photographer. So music has always been deeply important to me, and album covers, when I was 16 years old, were a massive industry. So you had CD album covers, you had LP, record, vinyl. album covers, which, some of you will know what those things are and some of you won't. That's okay. But anyway, it was band artwork to advertise the album that was coming out at the time. So it was very inspiring to me, very emotional. And there was a particular photographer who did incredible work that inspired me. He did the album covers, people like Ozzy Osbourne, Michael Jackson, Cradle of Filth, and they were the exact aesthetic that I was drawn to in my art. So I knew that that is kind of what I wanted to recreate. Really, that was the path I wanted to go down. I was dating a musician at the time. We traveled to Brighton. They had a gig there, and we were staying with another member of the band who was renting a room in a house. Okay, bear with me. This story's great. The person who owned the house, unconnected to me, my partner at the time, my partner's bandmate was living with him. He came to the sound check and we were stood talking. I wasn't playing in the band. He wasn't playing in the band. So the band are doing their sound check thing. We had a conversation. At the time, I was 18 years old by this point. And he said to me, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "Well, I really want to be a photographer. And I have this really strong desire. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to achieve it, but that's really what I want." And he saw my passion. And he said, "You know what is interesting? I'm a photographer. Like, I'd love to talk to you about photography and the passion I have for it." It's like, this, sound check is going to go on for hours and hours. The gig is tonight. Shall we go back to the house? We can have a cup of tea and I can show you my work and we can talk photography. And I just thought, this is a beautiful moment. Absolutely. Let me do that. So we went back and he brought out these beautiful, beautiful portfolio books, and we were looking through them, and I shit you not, we're turning the pages and there are all the album covers that had inspired me to be a photographer were in this book. They were his work. He was the photographer that had created that work. His name is Finn Costello, and I love him very, very much. And he said to me, by this point, obviously, my mind was blown. I'm like, I'm staying in the house of the photographer that created the work that inspired me 2 years ago to want to be a photographer. And now we're here and he's showing me his work. I mean, I was just blown away by this. So he said to me, "You need to go do this college course. You need to work on this. He gave me a list of things, right? So I went away. I wasn't sure I'd ever see him again, but I definitely wanted to. I went away. Over the period of about 2 years, I did the things that he had suggested that I do. And then I found out he had a studio in Camden in London. And I got the train to Camden. This was before text messages were a thing and the internet wasn't really a massive thing. And, getting in touch with someone was a much more visceral act. So I traveled to London and I went and knocked on the door of his studio. I remember it was like the door was like in an alley. You had to go down. It was like a sliding door because it was an industrial studio. He did massive shoots in there. They used to drive cars and trucks and all sorts. They'd build sets in there. So it was huge. So I knocked on the door and he opened the door and I said, "I don't know if you remember me. I stayed at your house 2 years ago and I told you that I wanted to be a photographer and you told me to do these things. I've done those things. Now what do I do?" And he still to this day tells this story about being so blown away by my tenacity that he took me on as his assistant. And for the next several years, I did some absolutely incredible things. I photographed some amazing bands with him. I understood, I got to understand, to shadow him and to understand the nuances not only of the craft, but how you move within the industry and how you make contacts and how you actually make things work. The process of making something work on a day with a shoot, whether that's a shoot in the studio, going to a gig to photograph a band for the music libraries, which is who he was shooting for a lot of the time. And I learned so much. I mean, it completely changed my life. I then spent the next 20 years as a photographer. I went to visit him several times. In fact, I need to call him. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. I'm overdue a call with him. My children have gone hung out with him. My children have no idea who he is. They just think he's Uncle Finn. They've run around in his house. And we have this beautiful, historic, magical moment in our lives where if it wasn't for that synchronous event of us stood in the same place at the same time at that sound check, my life would not have been what it has been. I spent 25 years as a photographer and I had the most incredible life. And I have done some extremely amazing things that would just simply never have happened if it wasn't for that moment. Now, you could argue that perhaps I would have found a different route because I'm very passionate and very tenacious, but that doesn't matter because the fact of the matter is I did have all of those synchronous events and it was a phenomenal experience for me. So, coming back to the research on the psychology of looking for synchronous events in our day, research shows that we increase our life satisfaction by giving synchronicity meaning. That kind of goes hand in hand with optimism. The search for meaning is quite an optimistic thing. And if you feel like you're in quite a cynical space, quite a pessimistic space, then looking for the magic of synchronicity is perhaps going to seem like a stretch, but I highly recommend that you try. Look for things and give them meaning, even if in your brain you don't feel like there's a wonderful wizard in the sky doing these things for you, or the universe is conspiring to make this life magical, or maybe you don't even believe in your higher self or your higher consciousness, and you really do believe that it really is just one foot in front of the other and it's as simple as that, and when we die and that's who you are. You can still access this. You can still look for moments. You can still look for, maybe you're coming into a car park and you feel like, I really need a car parking space. If you change your psychology here, your experience will be vastly different. So if you go in and you think, oh, it's going to be really busy, I'm not going to find a parking space, it's going to be really stressful, and then I'm going to have to rush, and I'm probably going to forget some of the things, and then when I get home, I'm going to really struggle to cook the dinner that I was planning on cooking, and then the people are coming for dinner, it's going to all be a horrible, it's going to be a disaster. You could catastrophize things like that, okay? And then that is what you are going to encourage into your life. Now, you go in with a different attitude, and you go in, you think, I just want a parking spot. I'd love that. I'd love this to be simple. Go in with a playful energy, an optimistic energy, a positive energy. And the chances are very strong because our brains attach meaning to the things that we're looking for. So if you're looking for the positive in the situation, chances are very strong you're going to go in and you're going to find that parking space and you're going to get the right food and you're going to go home much less stressed. Now, whether the actual facts have changed or not is anybody's guess. We could go around in circles talking about this, but the experience you will have as a result of looking for the synchronous moment will be so much more positive. There was a recent report in Frontiers Psychology that talks about everything I have just said. It talks about the fact that people are different in whether or not they look for synchronous situations, but it also talks extensively about the positive impact looking for those moments can have on your life. Why wouldn't you look for those moments if knowing that science is telling us that our mental well-being is higher, more positive, more pleasant, and nicer experience? Why would you not try then to look for the synchronous experiences in life? I feel like we have a negative bias, right, in our minds. So our monkey mind automatically looks for the struggle. It automatically looks for the thing that is going to be hardest. It automatically looks for the negative, the cynical, the pessimistic. So to snap out of that does mean you have to exert some conscious energy. You have to choose to look for the positive and the meaningful. But by doing that, the more often that you do that, the more naturally it will come to you. And like anything that you do more often, like muscle memory, it will become something that becomes second nature to you. And I feel like whatever your belief in life, whether you believe in God, gods, the universe, higher consciousness, extraterrestrials, or absolutely nothing, I feel like there is nothing to be lost by looking for the beautiful moments in life. And there is also something to be said for using those moments as guidance. And even if you believe in absolutely nothing, you can look at it that it's your own personal intuition. And if you're quite a cynical person and you're not looking for synchronicity in life, then the chances are you're not that invested in your own intuition. And that is something I would highly encourage you to snap out of, because listening to ourselves, listening to our own intuition is such a dramatic way to change how we move through life. Life is a dance. And if we come at it with a negative attitude, it's always going to feel like a struggle. But you can choose to come at life with any emotion that you want to put in there. So you can choose to come at life looking for the magic, looking for the positive, and your life will be better, happier, easier than the person who is choosing to look for the struggle. Now, if you believe in your higher consciousness or the universal energy or God or gods, then you can assign much deeper meaning to this, and you can look at and look for the signs in life that will be happening all of the time. I'm not talking about a once in a lifetime thing. I'm talking about every 20 minutes something can happen that you can assign meaning to, and by doing that you literally lead a more meaningful life. There is something to be said for synchronicity being related to trust in the universe's divine plan or our higher consciousness talking to us, giving us meaning in seemingly random events that unfold around us. It's about embracing the beauty of the unknown and allowing ourselves to be guided by the whispers of our own intuition. So I fully encourage you to expand your heart, expand your mind, expand your awareness, and be open to the possibility that synchronous events are happening around us all the time, and you can assign meaning to them. And that meaning can be deep and spiritual. That meaning can also be mental and intellectual. And it can also be a sign that you're actually listening to your own intuition. I would love to know if you've had other synchronous events. I mean, the story that I shared is dramatic, but I could probably tell you 10 of those stories right now without even thinking about it. No one needs to hear 10 of those stories right now, but I'm fascinated by this. Whether it's the daily things in life that make you feel like you're on the right path or the wrong path, or whether it's a dramatic story like the story I told, a life-changing event in your life that happened because of a synchronous event, please share them with me. I would love to hear what your experience with synchronicity is. For more content talking about spirituality, personal growth, personal development from a very normal point of view. I'm just a very normal human being on a conscious path, trying to learn, trying to evolve, sharing what I know with you, and hopefully hearing the things that you're going to share with me. So like, subscribe, share, comment. Let's have a conversation about these things.